Let me see. Sound. Hello, everybody can hear me now. You guys can hear me now. Got off to that slow start. Can you hear me, Joe? Can you hear me, Gerry? All right. All right. Let's get cooking here. This is like the radio station here when you get bombarded with nothing but silence. So yeah, if you guys can hear me, we got a great show for you guys tonight, and I think it's going to be fun for everybody here. There I am. Hopefully everybody can hear me now. I'm going to bring Joe into the room. What is Friday night without a little slapstick comedy here? Thank you everybody for tuning in. Brooklyn Aquarium Society, good. Thank you, Galena. The audio is on. Thank you, my Marox. Thank you, everybody. You know, I'm like running like a chicken with my head cut off, but I just wanted you guys to get a little overview of the speaker that we're going to have tonight, Gerry Brostek of Penn-Plax, going to talk about innovations in the planted side of the hobby for people that are beginning. And I just want to add that there's a little something in here for some of my saltwater people. Don't think that just because something is geared toward just the planted side of the hobby that it does not have relevance or application to the freshwater and saltwater side of the hobby. So before we get into the meeting itself, I just want to make 3 little announcements. First of all, I want to thank you guys that took part in our online auction that we did, our first Brooklyn Aquarium Society online auction a few weeks ago. We're going to be gearing up to do the giant Brooklyn Aquarium Society auction in May. Hopefully everything goes well. So look out for that on the Facebook and YouTube channel, which brings us to the second announcement. Brooklyn Aquarium Society has created its YouTube channel. Hooray for us. We've stepped into the new millennium. Brooklyn Aquarium Society on YouTube, where we're going to have previews of some of the long laundry list of speakers from across the decades, across the country, and across the world. So check out the Brooklyn Aquarium Society on YouTube and subscribe, share it with your friends. If you have any questions or comments, email them. We love to hear from you guys. Last, and before I turn it over to Joe G to introduce Mr. Brostek, I'm going to say we're going to have a big giveaway sponsored by Penn-Plax. They have been so courteous and so generous as to donate very, very what I think. I've spoken and looked at this thing. It's going to blow your socks off. So if you want to take part in this giveaway, you're going to see a stream with a special code word and the email address in order to take part in the giveaway. So look out for that stream. I'm going to put it probably halfway into the presentation. It's going to scroll across the bottom of your screen. In order to take part, you're going to have to use that code word and send the email with your name and address to the email provided. So, okay, I know you guys get sick of me jibber jabbering here. Joe G, you may have a few words to bring in. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Joe.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Brooklyn Aquarium Society virtual meeting. Tonight we have Gerry Brostek of Penn-Plax, and he's going to be giving you a beautiful presentation on some great new products that Penn-Plax has, and then go into many things that Penn-Plax has. And I think you're going to enjoy a lot of the giveaways that he's going to be doing in tonight's show. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
And cue Mr. Brostek. He's like Iron Man.
There you go.
Wait, hold up.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much for the introduction. My name, as they said, my name's Gerry Brostek. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Penn-Plax, and I'm delighted to be here tonight to talk with you about myself, about Penn-Plax, our history, and some new products that we have that are related to planted aquariums. Absolutely. First, big shout out to Joe Graffignino and Dee Manuel and everyone at the Brooklyn Aquarium Society for inviting me to speak today. It's important for this past year that we all stay in touch with each other. And even if you can't physically be with someone, or if you can't go to the meetings, I think attendance and two-way communication at events like this are really important to keep you up on things and just to keep you feeling good. So thanks everybody for attending. In my presentation, as I said, I'm going to talk about my history in the hobby and things that I've done. I've enjoyed the fish keeping hobby since I was about 12 years old. And I can remember riding my Schwinn 10-speed bicycle down Northern Boulevard to Fishtown, USA. That is a store I'm sure many of you guys have gone to. And
memories, Gerry, memories.
I'd ride my bike to Northern, and then I would make it a point to walk through every single aisle in the store. They probably had 200 tanks. And I'd look at the salt water and the plants and everything else. And then after spending an hour in the store, I'd probably spend $1.59 on a couple of swordtails or Danios. But
every store owner loves that.
That's right.
But I loved it. And, so 45 years later, I'm still in a house full of fish tanks. And that's part of the idea. In fact, growing up in Flushing, we didn't have a lot of money. And when my dad learned that I really liked my best friend's 10-gallon Metaframe fish tank with the old piston-driven air pump that he used to breed guppies, my father jumped on it. And actually, my first aquarium wasn't an aquarium. Dad was at a trade show, and they had a big plastic box used to wash bottles. And after the trade show, we repurposed this big plexiglass box into a 50-gallon aquarium. And at 12 years old, a 50-gallon aquarium was pretty cool. And I'll never forget that. That was my very first aquarium. In addition to going to Fishtown, USA, I got some fish through a little bit alternate means. And Dee, I think you said you had a similar experience. My local park in Flushing. In fact, let me start the presentation. Give me 1 second.
All right. We'll take the back seat. Yeah, some of the memories of like how people got into the hobby are like the most interesting stories, because they always start with the local fish store. That's why we really have to dedicate ourselves to making sure that these guys get support and that they stay in business. The first experience you have is that first trip to the local pet store.
Okay, let me just get this started up with you in just a second. All right. Can you see that there, Joe and Dee?
I got you. I'm bringing it on.
Great. And now that I have the presentation up, before I go any further, I want to send a great thank you to Michael Anglin in our marketing department, who actually put the presentation together. So thanks, Mike. I know you're out there watching and listening. I spoke a little bit about what I do here at Penn-Plax. I'm the chief operating officer and fish keeping since 12 years old. And one of the things that I did that as I said, I imagine a lot of us did, this was a bound park in Flushing, New York, that I used to play in as a kid. And they were doing construction, and I think it was 74, and they drained the pond. And some truck came and took all the fish away. And I remember walking through, seeing a couple of fish still flapping in an inch of water. And I wound up taking home some koi, or some carp, and some catfish. And I had them in a tank for many years. And they became, part of my house. Fish that you had that weren't necessarily bought at the pet store. In addition to my own aquariums, I have a pond in the backyard that I dug with, well, I wouldn't say I dug it, I supervised. I got a bunch of my nephews to actually do the digging. And one of the things that's magical is, as you can see in the lower right, I've got a frog there. I threw a bunch of tadpoles in last spring, and we all know that eventually they turn into tadpoles, but it's still just magical when you see that frog and you realize that he went through metamorphosis. So that brought back the little 12-year-old in me this past year when I saw those. This is a photo of my 38-gallon corner. The picture's about 2 years old, and it's full of various small tropicals. I like to change it a lot. Currently, I have 2 tiger Oscars that are just way too big and need to be rehomed. But we will get to that some point. Anybody looking for 9-inch tiger Oscars, give me a call. One other thing about me is I'm in the hobby for 45 years. I'm actually this year celebrating my 35th wedding anniversary. And everyone knows the 25th wedding anniversary is like your silver anniversary. Turns out the 35th wedding anniversary is coral. And so I haven't told my wife yet, but I think I'm going to set up a reef tank, and we'll see how that goes.
Just set it up next to the couch. There.
Look for me next year, and I'll let you know how all that worked out. Anyway, I studied in college electrical engineering, and I was a defense contractor for many years. I actually got my job through the New York Times. Some of the people on this presentation might remember that expression. Throughout the 29 years that I've been with Penn-Plax, I've worked in most functional departments, including sales, marketing, accounting, product development, purchasing, and inventory management as I said, over the past 29 years. I've had fantastic opportunities to travel the world and meet amazing people in the industry, to share stories, ideas, look at these fantastic 1,000-gallon aquarium setups. And I've had opportunities that the regular people it would be very tough for them to find. So the company I work for is Penn-Plax. And we are a 60-year-old, third-generation, family-owned and operated business. Since this is the Brooklyn Aquarium Society, some of you might remember the Saratoga Aquarium on Pennsylvania in Brooklyn. Well, that's how the business started. Marvin and Anita Goldman started a pet store in Brooklyn. And it was a place, it became a happening place. People would come there almost for entertainment. I wasn't there personally, but I was told that they used to keep exotics, including monkeys, in the window so that kids walking by would want to come into the store and stare at all the other livestock. We don't see a lot of that today. It's probably frowned upon or maybe not available. But at the time, back in the late 50s, this was a real innovation, and it made it fun. It made it an event to go to the pet store. One of the more famous stories from the pet store days is the invention of rainbow gravel. When you go to Petco or your independent store these days, you see nice plastic bags of Estes gravel in a million different colors and sizes and shapes. Back in the day, at the bottom of the shelf, you'd see a box of natural gravel and a box of black gravel and a box of green gravel in little boxes, and the store owner would measure it and you'd buy it by the pound. While the pet store was going, Marvin and Anita had kids, Terry and Rick Goldman, the second generation, and they basically grew up in the store. And horsing around in the store, playing in the gravel boxes, all the colors got mixed. And so they were faced with 3 choices. Could throw it out, but that certainly wasn't happening. You could pay somebody to try to separate it into individual colors, and that would have taken years. Or necessity is the mother of invention. They invented rainbow gravel. And that's a true story. And as I've tried to verify it, but it seems to be the way that The rainbow gravel that you see in every pet store, that's where it came from.
That is so a Brooklyn story.
It's uniquely Brooklyn. That doesn't happen in Los Angeles. That's
no. They threw the whole
I remember going to the store and mixing the gravel purposely for that when I was a kid. We went to Tropical Supermarket on Nostrand Avenue. They had all the bins with all the different gravel, and you take a little bit of each and mix together. Because I liked the way it looked all mixed together. And I was probably 10, 12 years old at that time.
But yeah, that experience, that in-person experience, you can't buy it.
So this was a pet store, and you're thinking late 50s, all of a sudden plastics is becoming very popular, and molding. And some of the first products, we're going to talk about some Penn-Plax products that I guarantee I'll see people raise their hand and say, hey, I had that, or I still use that today. They started working with vacuum form molding, but they didn't have the money to go buy expensive machinery. They took a vacuum, an old oven from someone's kitchen, sheets of plastic, and started making products, including the first three-dimensional backgrounds that you've used in your various aquariums, your 10s, 20s, 29s, 55s. All those products were developed and invented and hand-painted by the guys in Brooklyn. As customers responded positively, the company made the decision to get out of retail and go more into wholesale and manufacturing. The first factory was located, as I said, in Brooklyn. We've since gone to Jamaica, Queens, and actually our world headquarters, we're now in Hauppauge, Long Island. Our passion has always been for pets, and really one of the angles that Penn-Plax tries to take is about making it easier, making it more affordable, and encouraging young people to get into the hobby. Those are important things.
Affordable is always a really good thing.
Well, if you don't have young people getting into the hobby, eventually there's no hobby.
It stops a lot of people, because sometimes people don't realize how expensive it could be to set up a tank as small as a 30-gallon, and if you can cut corners in different ways, that usually helps.
Yeah, and that's really some of the direction that when we have product development meetings, is how can we make it easier? How can we avoid frustration? The last thing that you want, whether you're a hobbyist yourself or maybe you're a pet store owner, you don't want someone to go in and spend an hour picking out the tanks and lights and filters that they need to be successful, and then get frustrated for a week and stop. That's not the goal. So legitimately, everything that we think of when we're developing aquarium products are always about low cost, ease of use, and maybe a design that would attract new people to the hobby.
Well, that's one of the things of our club, is to teach people the right way to keep a tank, not to start up a tank and 2 weeks later everything's dead because they had no idea what they're doing. They walked into a fish store and the guy sold them the tank, the fish, and everything in one day, and they threw it right in the tank.
Yeah, and you'd cry, but I saw that today. I saw the woman with the kid in one hand and the tank in the other hand, and I was like, oh boy.
That's ridiculous.
It's tough.
But fish stores you'd think would tell them that, but no, they don't care if fish dies because they'll come back and buy more, they figured. But you chase them from the hobby instead of taking a long-term customer. You in a short time they get discouraged and give up on everything.
Yeah, you don't want that. And the people on this presentation are, I would imagine, intermediate to advanced, and they're always looking for better places to get livestock. But if the stores don't have products to sell, and if the stores don't have new consumers coming in to shop, then there are fewer stores. And if there are fewer stores, there's less livestock, et cetera, and so on. And that's what we're trying to avoid. So if you flash back to, say, 1965 or thereabouts, tank dividers. Again, I have to imagine that many of the people on today's presentation have used these. You have an aquarium, and you've got some guppies and swordtails. And then all of a sudden you see this beautiful Jack Dempsey in the store. You want to have that too. Well, you got two choices. You can get a tank divider and separate smaller, gentle fish from larger, aggressive fish. And now that one aquarium became 2 aquariums. Simple idea. Millions, literally millions sold in the country. If you don't get a tank divider and you get that Jack Dempsey, tomorrow morning you're going to have a very fat Jack Dempsey.
Jack Dempsey.
Wouldn't
you be surprised if you woke up and the guppy was still alive and the Dempsey was gone?
That's a real Brooklyn fish.
And those dividers are also great for when you're breeding fish. You want to keep a pair separate. I've done that with angelfish too.
Sure.
And I'll jump on the back end of that. The tank divider is also good for saltwater. I mean, you can separate clownfish, kind of entice them into breeding.
Yes.
You can do it with as small as a 10-gallon tank, move them back and forth. I mean, there's a lot of saltwater application as well.
And it's a simple, inexpensive device. Yeah, nothing special, that complicated or expensive.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Another thing that goes back probably 45 years, I think this was the early 70s, was a better way to control airflow. Everybody's using multiple airlines to drive at the time under gravel filters and maybe bubble filters. And the original valves were brass and screw type.
Yep.
Brass made them fairly expensive. And the screw type, if you think about it, especially the early years with the vibrator pumps, the screws had a tendency to go out of adjustment. And you'd spend a lot of time adjusting things. And a month later, this air stone has no air, and this air stone has too much air.
Right.
So how do you solve those 2 problems? Well, we designed, made injection molds, and did them in plastic, which at the time was kind of new.
Yeah.
They adjust with the cock and ball system and made a very tight fitting, low tolerance plastics. Once they're adjusted, they stay adjusted. So very simple solution to some complicated problems. Again, still in use today. I have them on my aquariums and been around a long time. And again, something sold literally in the millions.
Yeah.
Next, the next product that might resonate with some of the people here on the presentation is what was called a Canistar power hang-on filter. And I know my first aquarium, I had the Supreme hang-on with the input tubes that you had to prime yourself. This was innovative, late 80s. And it was a sealed canister filter, a sealed filter that hung on the back of your aquarium. And you could use floss, you could use any media you wanted, you could use diatomaceous earth if you wanted to, and really polish the water. Hadn't been done before. And that was quite revolutionary. I'm thinking 84, 85. I'm not 100% sure on the year.
God bless you, Penn-Plax, because I sucked in mouths full of water. If I can't be the only one.
You had to put your thumb on that big tube and try to sting, and it would lose air and it would stop working.
I think I almost got a beating because of how much water I got on the floor one time. Until this filter came out, this was definitely like people now with the pumps that are running now don't realize where these pumps started. Like the Canistar and those designs and those ideas launched this whole new generation that we got now.
Yeah, it's important to know the history, it is. I find things interesting to see how quickly over the years things have developed. Now, when you go to a trade show, there are so many different filtration options available. Scroll it back 40 years, there was not the same selection and not all the innovation that we see in the marketplace today. I'm going to go to another innovation of Penn-Plax's that, again, it goes to the theme of trying to get younger hobbyists into aquariums. And so also designed with retailers in mind. The next screen that we have, Action Air Ornaments, was a variety of air-driven movement in different treasure chests and divers and giant clams and shipwrecks.
Which we've all had in our tanks at one time or another. I don't care who says that.
I'm about to put that guy in mine now.
Well, there again, probably started approximately 50 years ago, sales in the tens of millions and just hundreds of variations. The one, I'm going to scroll this video a few times because it is kind of funny. As I said, I started with the company in 1992, and I'm going on the interview and I'm trying to do some research on the company. P.S. 1992, there is no Google, so you had to do research the old-fashioned way.
You got to say, hey, yo, like Rocky.
And when I went to my aquarium, I actually had the treasure diver with the bubbles coming out his ears.
Yeah.
So I went into the interview confident that I was going to nail this job.
I had every one of those three on top there.
Did you really?
Yes, I did.
I have the clam right now.
I'm going to be 60 now, and I've been doing this since I'm 10 years old. My dad has had tanks on since I was a baby, and he still does. He's 95, and he's still got a 100-gallon tank in the house. So I've been around fish all my life, and he's always had different tanks. He let me start up one when I was about 10 years old. He let me do my own 10-gallon. He already had a couple of 29s at that time, and I had those in there.
Great.
With the piston pump you were talking about, which I still have.
You still have? Do you have to oil it?
I don't use it. I don't use it.
My piston pump got hot, boy. It got hot.
Yeah, I don't use it. My father just won't let me throw it away.
I got to tell you, I told Gerry yesterday, I begged my mother for this thing when I was a kid. That's the only one I wanted it because it looked like the creature from the Black Lagoon. And she was like, no, it looks scary. I don't want to put that in there. But it brings back memories. They're like trading cards. These things are they're collectibles. Yeah.
Well, D, I was following the comment thread and I saw someone had mentioned that these can be collectibles. So instantly I created this slide of Creature from the Black Lagoon. And I don't know the person who said that quote, but you're right. If you can find a creature in its original packaging, go to eBay.
Okay, no, we're going to have our giant auction next month. I'm going to search every bucket I got in my house. I'm sure something's in there, but these things, I have that clam upstairs. I'm telling you right now. I actually dug that. I stayed up last night and found that clam.
That is funny. Another thing that we do in an attempt to attract kids is, in addition to Creature from the Black Lagoon or the clams, things that kids are drawn to, is that we enter licensing agreements with large companies such as the Disney company. And, The Little Mermaid, if you go back in the day when that movie came out, it was red hot. And it made sense. This is going to sound stupid. It's going to sound obvious, but it made sense because Ariel lives under the sea. And
there you go.
What we found is if you're making an aquarium or an aquarium decoration or an aquarium kit, if you're making it under a theme that makes sense underwater, they will sell a lot better. And while, of course, I'm in it for the sales, really we're in it to create new hobbyists. So the little girl who gets an Ariel to put in her betta tank and the little boy who gets one of the other characters to put in his goldfish bowl, hopefully they have success and they grow into the hobby and get later on into breeding cichlids and setting up reef tanks, because that's really how many of us certainly started. Again, back in 92, when The Mermaid came out, I'll never forget this. I was in the office and we really had no idea just how big Ariel was going to be. And I'm in the office and we had all of these various decorations and we had some aquarium kits. And one of the inside salespeople starts running around saying, hey, I've got somebody on the phone who wants 20,000 Little Mermaid aquariums. True story.
She happened to be a little girl.
Even better. So after I calmed them down and said, okay, somebody wants 20,000 aquariums. Did you get their name? I didn't recognize the name. He said he was the buyer for Toys R Us.
Whoa, yeah, that's good news.
Yeah,
Wow.
we picked up the phone right after that and we called him back. But that's an example of just the crazy, some of the crazy things that we experienced back when we introduced Little Mermaid. And back then, again, you don't have Amazon back then. You don't have the internet. And it was a challenge sometimes to get the products into the brick and mortar retailers. So Penn-Plax operates an extensive team of salespeople, both in our home office in Hauppauge, as well as around the country in various states, calling on 1,000 pet stores, trying to keep them abreast of the products that we know are going to sell in their stores. And absolutely something that sells in the stores now. I'd like to see either a show of hands or some comments on the comment field on YouTube. Who has the pineapple in their tank, one of their kids' tanks?
I bought that SpongeBob when my daughter was 4 years old. She's going to be 18. I have Patrick in my hand. Let me tell you, that launched like 1,000 projects. That one character, because every time she came to look at the tank, she wanted to see if SpongeBob was still there.
And so if you watch the show, as I'm sure all of us do, it's not just SpongeBob, it's Patrick, Sandy, Squidward, Mr. Krabs, Plankton, as well as the homes. And, certainly it's fun to have the characters. But as we know, the characters' houses, which is the pineapple, I'll go back to it for just a second. The characters' houses, like the pineapple, or Squidward's house, or the Crab Shack, they're designed with swim-throughs and also as hiding places. So yeah, they're humorous and they're colorful and comical, but they also do provide a function in the aquarium. After tonight's presentation, I encourage you to just go to YouTube and put in SpongeBob SquarePants Aquarium. Do that as a search. There are probably not hundreds, but thousands of kids and not so kids who have set up their aquariums with our decorations and take videos. They're all over the place. It's really, we didn't encourage it, but it's became a phenomenon, and we're very happy.
We're getting a lot of comments. A lot of grown people have these things. I'm getting a lot.
You notice they're not kids. I noticed that.
None of these guys are kids. These guys got Patrick. Let me see. Who's this? Okay. He's got the pineapple. Richard's got Patrick on his mind here. It's fun. It's all about the fun. If you got to put so much stress at work, and you come home and you can look at this little Patrick living in its own little world, it puts a smile on your face.
And everybody was a kid before, and now they have children, and maybe their children have children. So this is a multi-generation enjoyment. It's great.
And just one other funny story, but true, about SpongeBob was when it first came out. When we first started selling the program, we would be talking to buyers, usually like a 45-year-old man, and we'd make a presentation and they'd laugh at us. They'd say, "This is the stupidest thing. I don't want it in my store." And we knocked on many doors only to be rejected. And so someone on the team, I don't remember who it was, someone said, "Let's go around the buyer." And we made lots of sample packs of SpongeBob and Patrick and Mr. Krabs. And we sent it to whoever the receptionist or whoever the secretary was. Give them a box and say, "Hey, you know what? Put these on the cafeteria table," or give them out to anybody in the office. And they became quite desired, and people would hoard them. And that actually, we would then call back the buyer maybe a month later, and he'd say, "Hey, I've seen these all over my office. Tell me a little bit more." And that's how we got it into a couple of major retailers. I don't want to mention the name because they're probably watching, but it's a true and effective way to sometimes convince someone, hey, you're missing the boat.
Yep.
And, there are now literally millions of that pineapple in aquariums around the country. SpongeBob certainly was our most successful, is and continues to be our most successful. We have a number of other brands that perform well with different age groups, different demographics, in different countries. And two of those brands that you see on the right are coming soon, where we'll be adopting some images and iconics from Jaws or Jurassic World to be either in aquarium or in a reptile environment. And again, we try to do that in addition to the regular Penn-Plax branded products as a way to always offer something new and to always offer something exclusive to our customers, whether they're pet stores, mass merchants, or online retailers, which have certainly become much more important over the past couple of years. I'd now like to talk about the main event, or the reason, the title of today's presentation. If you take a look at these pictures, these planted aquariums look incredibly tranquil and beautiful and peaceful. I think some of these pictures might be from either from trade shows or from a famous aquascaper in China, where they make these beautiful aquariums, as you can see in the photos. And I think what happens a lot, and again, I hope that this resonates with some of the people listening, you see something that you want to duplicate, but maybe you kind of rush it. Maybe you cut a few corners. I'll give you an example, full disclosure. I live in Merrick, and so I'm not too far from Jones Beach. And I never had a marine aquarium before. And I don't know what happened, but one morning I said, I want a marine aquarium. But I didn't want to spend a lot of money. And I took a bunch of Poland Spring 5-gallon jugs and drove to Jones Beach and took free water, thinking that this was the world's greatest idea. Why didn't anybody else think of this? And I put it in an aquarium with an overhead drip filter, and like the next day threw some damsels in. And it, I think everybody here knows where the story's going. I don't have those damsels anymore. So what happens, you get inspired and you see these beautiful pictures. I mean, I love the aquarium on the upper right. And you see there's only a couple of fish, because fish only mess up these aquariums. You get that beautiful lush carpet on the bottom, and it's great. But what happens a lot is, you rush out and maybe you don't do all the reading and you're not fully prepared, and you try your best, but you wind up getting results that didn't come out exactly as you had planned.
And
That's a little different. It's a little bit.
Yeah, it is green though.
It's green. If you want a green aquarium, you got a green aquarium.
Algae is so easy to grow.
Maybe you didn't have the right substrate. I know we had a wonderful presentation on substrate last month. So you could make 100 different mistakes and get this as the result. And then what happens is you turned off, you're not into it, and you throw out the swords that you bought or the Ludwigia that you bought, and you go back to just having an unplanted tank. And that's not the goal. So what we're doing is something new. And that's the topic of the presentation, which we call Aquaflora Resin Decor, where we're making it easier to start a planted aquarium. Maybe you don't need that CO2 bottle to bubble through the water. And maybe you don't need super high intensity light, and you don't have to take the pH and all of the other parameters of your water every 5 minutes. But you want success, you want something pretty, and you don't want it to be too expensive, and you'd like it to be easy. Well, that's what Aquafloras do. These are patented and custom-made decorations that are impregnated with glossostigma elatinoids that when they're in the box, they look just like a little bit of green. There we go. I'll wait till the next slide comes up. And don't ask me to pronounce glossostigma elatinoids again, because
I was going to tell you say it 3 times fast.
It was easier to learn how to say graphic Nino.
Took me years to learn how to say that.
So that chart is a before after. Before they come, it looks like some green fuzz on a decoration, which is actually quite nice looking anyway. But once you put it in the water, over time, about 2 weeks, we'll get to it in just a second, the plants actually sprout. And now, you don't need...
That is amazing. That is amazing to me. Because can't any of us that have tried to do a planted tank say that we have not tried to make that carpet grow like that is in that picture? That is not an easy thing to do.
How does that stay dormant in the box, the plant, and still stay alive?
Well, you heard me say patented. I can't give away that secret.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so let me ask you another question.
He says that we got to kill you today.
How long would it stay in the box before it has problems, or can it stay indefinitely?
We're looking at better than 2 years. I can't quote an expiration date, but we've been testing them for more than 2 years without incident.
Somebody just said it looks like a chia pet.
Yeah, Jeannie says, yeah, it looks like a chia pet for aquariums. But if you could grow it in all those
it's a great idea.
Shapes and crevices and things like that, that's awesome.
I do want to give a shout out to one of the commenters who properly identified the designer of the planted aquarium.
Takashi Amano, correct.
Yeah.
Amano.
That was Gerry.
Oh, okay.
He passed away.
Gerry van der Putten.
They, those tanks, the amount of time it takes to prepare those would turn off many, many people. So these are examples of before and after. On the right, you see the actual retail package. It comes in a clear box, so you can see what it looks like now, and you can see what it will look like in just a few weeks. So once the screen refreshes, I'll show you what it looks like. Here we go.
Nice. Very nice.
No, I don't know.
So that's day 1.
We'll let it go through, and then I'll talk about it.
That is amazing to me.
And again, you're hitting one target where it's reasonable to do. It's not, like I said, overly expensive to set this plant the tank up. Talk about that guy Mano. I heard he charged like $10,000 to set up tanks.
Oh yeah, he did.
It was a ridiculous amount of money, and people would pay it.
And if you didn't manicure it, and when I say manicure it, if you weren't running the right CO2, he had $400 lights on there. Keeping something like that is really intimidating. So now, do you need CO2 and all of that for this plant to grow?
Well, I'm going to speak to that. These will be optimal in heated water that have fish, so they're providing the nutrient cycle, and has professional lighting. Of course, that's going to be optimal. However, they will also grow in a regular goldfish bowl with no additional lighting. They'll grow in a tank with no fish. In fact, the stop motion video that I'm showing here was a tank with no fish. They'll grow with fish. This is pretty hardy. We experimented with a number of genus and species seeds until we got the ones that we really thought were going to be the most flexible through all water types. Your water's a little hard, your water's soft, your pH is 7.2, your pH is 6.6. Wherever it was, we felt we were getting the best results with the glossostigma. And really, the proof is in the pudding. So you now have pretty much a foolproof way to get that sort of carpet effect that people were looking for, certainly without spending $10,000. We can do it for a lot less. And you also get that, we're Americans. You get that sort of instant gratification. So shout out to one of the people, again, there's hundreds of people on the presentation. I don't know who it was. This is a chia pet for your aquarium.
So now one of the Facebook users actually asks, does it need to be fertilized?
So I'm actually in my fish room right now, and I'm looking at one that's been going. I'm coming up on 7 months, and they still are growing. I have not ever fertilized. Basically, by being in a tank with livestock, not only are the livestock and their wastes fertilizing the plant, the plant actually removes some nitrogen that might otherwise develop algae. So the simple answer to the question is there is no need to add additional, liquid fertilizers of any sort. Will they help? I don't think that they would hurt, but there is no additional work necessary to achieve these kind of results.
Carol says these look like plants that I won't kill. Apparently a lot of people have attempted to do this on their own, and without the know-how to start it off, it can be intimidating. So this is, as Michelle says, amazing. Like, it gives people confidence if they see this like product comes out of the box. It takes not so much equipment and upfront setup to get started. You're going to get a lot of people trying to get into the planted aquarium. I could do a tank full of these by itself. And I want to get one shaped like Steve and like have the hair on the top grow like the plant on the top. Then I'll have my one side will be my head, one side will be his, like before and after.
It's again, I think that this product is really indicative of what Penn-Plax is about. It's a lot of fun to go to the trade shows or to go to a store and to see this incredibly complicated tank, and you've got wet dries and sumps and CO2s and blah, blah, blah. And that's great. And there's a market for that, and a lot of people enjoy doing it. But if you're a 12-year-old kid from Flushing on your Schwinn 10-speed bicycle with $1.59 in your pocket, you can't do that. Yeah. You still want it, but you can't do it. And what we have here is a way you can get pretty darn close with the Aquafloras and still get your aquarium decorated. And you see the life. Everyone in the office at this point, we have tanks all over the office, testing this, testing that. I've got glossostigma coming out my nose in the office. Everyone is into it because they make just such great decorations in the aquarium. And
now Mr. Lund says, are there different plants available yet, or this is still like the prototype phase? Like you guys coming out?
Well, right now, the next slide up shows you the different shapes and sizes that we have, and I'll mention that the picture is not really to scale because the one on the upper right is actually my favorite because it's just a flat disc that you can put on the bottom of the aquarium, and obviously it will start growing. You could put 2 or 3 and get that sort of carpet look. To speak to the question, we're not ready. It's based on the response. It might be something that's a topic of discussion in the office Monday, but we were most happy with the glossostigma results.
Okay.
We may start looking at other opportunities, but the key is it has to be shelf stable. It has to be hardy. And we want the single most important thing to us is that the results are satisfactory. We want to be able to know that everyone who buys this at their local fish store or Petco or Walmart or Amazon.com, that whoever buys it and wherever they buy it, that they're going to get the results that they're looking for. I don't want anybody disappointed, but we will have to take a look at some of the other plants that were available. What I really like about the Glosso is, again, you can't see me, I don't think, but I'm looking at the one in my tank, and it's 6 or 7 months later, and they're still there. I don't think that they regenerate by rhizomes, but it's still there and looking nice. The Oscars haven't bothered with it. In some tanks, you're probably, I would imagine tanks with certain fish, they might pick at it as they would any live plant, and that's good too.
Now, do you guys have a price point in mind, or are you guys still in talks about that? Like how much you
Well,
think that something like this would go for?
That's a great question because it also speaks to, I'll put my marketing hat on. We try to hit different price points. So the smaller one, I believe the entry level price point is $16 retail.
Oh, that's
It's
great.
not bad.
They
Yeah.
may
That's
go up
great.
for something larger, something that has more seed and more resin and is just physically larger. I think that the top price might be $29.99.
Oh,
Still
that's
not bad.
great.
Still not
That's
bad.
that's still
You can
great.
spend more than that in a couple of plants in the store.
You could spend
Yeah.
that on just the starter plants, especially tissue culture plants, like $15 for a little cup.
And you're getting a plant and you're getting the ornament or a rock, whatever you want to say, in one thing too. Yeah. That's
Right.
actually pretty reasonable, I think.
We try. We are sometimes we'll either develop something or someone will come bring something to our attention that could be a lot of fun or could be a great product. But when I had answered Dee's question, if I had said, oh, the smallest one has a retail of $99.95, you're going to sell 3 pieces.
Yeah.
And again, that's not what we're about. We try to aim our products for the broadest acceptance. If you have something that's $100 retail, it will never be in Walmart. That's not what their department does. But there's a lot of people in the country for whom Walmart is their local pet store.
Mhm.
They don't have Fishtown, USA to drive their bicycle to.
No.
And so we feel an obligation to be able to hit a number of different retail price points because the goal is to make the products as readily available, to every hobbyist.
So I was gonna guess at this because I have seen something similar to glossostigma, but you've had it in your tank for a few months, for about 6 or more months. Have you seen it spread off of the base, off the resin base, like grow? I know they grow out kind of like Java moss, but it's not a rooting. That plant's not a root extending. What do you call that? A rhizome spreader or a runner.
Right.
It doesn't send out a runner.
Okay. So then I'm what someone was asking or telling?
Yeah, they were asking, will it spread off the resin base?
Okay. Okay. Thanks. It was a great explanation because while you were speaking, I was looking at mine in my tank. And the tank's green right now, so I can't show you. I haven't cleaned it because I was preparing for tonight's presentation. So you can have one or the other.
Because I haven't known that plant to grow off.
That's what he just asked. That's what he just
Like it'll stay on the object that it's resin
right.
is attached
It doesn't
to.
spread off. I don't think it's invasive.
No.
If that's the purpose of the question, and I don't believe it will. So maybe the question is, can I use this as a starter? And over time, it will eventually blanket the whole bottom of the aquarium.
Probably.
I don't believe that's the case. No, that's not. If we could, maybe that will be in next year's model.
Well,
That
the funny thing here's an idea too. Depending on the structures you can attach it to, they can be connecting. Like, you know how we have reef rocks, Steve? We could have rocks that you could attach one to the other and kind of create a rockscape with living greenery on it. I mean, they could be of any size, because my brain is processing this right now. Like, man, I have this tank behind me that, to grow that stone with rock work is a lot of work. But if I could blanket the bottom with a piece like yours and have it ready in a month,
selling zillions.
That's awesome.
And they're reasonably priced. So even you had to get a couple of them for a tank. You're not going to break the bank with that,
No, by all means. Tissue culture is probably 3 times that.
Right. Exactly.
And and depending on the size of the tank, you could do multiples. You could buy multiples of the same shape, or make sort of a diorama with different shapes. If you look at them, we tried to stick to a natural look where we've got a stump, we've got a small flat rock, and we have a few that look like mountains. That's done so that it blends in with your existing aquascaping to the best of its ability. Who's to say that next year we won't come out with maybe some more fanciful? We don't have a shipwreck here. I'd love to see it on a shipwreck, that's been down there for a couple of years and has plants growing.
Yeah,
There are
that's
endless
good.
possibilities. The reality is we try to meet different price points, as Dee brought up. We try to make different sizes depending on your particular tank and what you want to do with it. But we never really come out with just one SKU. One SKU has a habit of not selling. It doesn't get placement in the store. It becomes like a one-trick pony. We've learned as marketers that if you have a complete line of product, you get more shelf space. And once you get the idea across, well, Joe likes the one that looks like a stump, and Frank likes the one that looks like a mountain, and Mary likes the one that looks like something else. So, that's the reason why manufacturers try to do multiple SKUs, sizes, price points, and personal taste.
So now another David says that he's currently available, because I see someone says they have one that looks like the stump.
These are currently available.
He says he has it and he loves it. He loves them. He's very pleased with it.
The first place that we encourage anybody to go, especially in a group like this, is to your local fish store. They're the ones who have the best selection, who need support, who rely on your foot traffic to stay in business. For people throughout the country, these are currently in Walmart. They are on Amazon.com, and they are coming soon to your local Petco, another 1,200 stores around the country. I don't have the Petco in-store date, but they will be there soon. So basically, within a couple of months, no matter where you live, anywhere in the contiguous 48, and I think Hawaii too, you'll have access to it. Not everybody is an online buyer. There are still some people who prefer to touch and feel and smell the product. And that's why we're putting a big push to get them into each and every of the local pet stores that we serve throughout the country.
Nice.
See, any other questions on this? I see a lot of typing in the thread. I can't read it from here. Anything else that you think is that I could possibly answer? I see the comment about the pineapple. That's not a bad idea. We'll take that under consideration.
And you can still add other plants next to it. They're not going to bother harm you. They're going to affect the growth of either one of them.
Nope. No contraindications.
Right.
Non-invasive.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I said, it looks like a great idea. I mean, like I said, it's reasonable. It's easy to grow. And what more could you ask for if you want to plant a tank and you want it simple?
And
Because
I've been
a
throwing
lot of us out there
out.
us out there have tried it, and planted tanks can be
work. Yeah, they're tricky.
Expensive,
I've been throwing a lot of the questions out as they've been coming, so we've been kind of keeping up to date. But yeah, no fertilizer required. If you are fertilizing your tank, it probably can't hurt that much. That particular variety of plant isn't a runner. It's not one that sends out a runner or drops off and reseeds itself, as far as I've seen. But yeah, I mean, the fact that I could get 2 or 3 of those and have a whole tank going, that's awesome. that's pretty cute, pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks. I'm glad. Certainly, I appreciate the positive responses. We'll go on now. I'll switch to the next slide. So just give me a second. Okay, we did that. There we go. I'm going to wait till the next slide updates, and then I'll close the presentation with some other trends that we're seeing in the industry. Bingo. Okay. So, in addition to the interest in planted tanks, and live plants in an aquarium is nothing new, but pet stores have fed back to us, and industry data has fed back to us that planted tanks and combining plants with fish is something growing. And it's not just us aquarium hobbyists. It's also people who are more into the plant side. So sometimes the question is this an aquarium that happens to have some live plants in it? Or is this a thing for live plants grown in water and I happen to have some fish in it, right? Two sides of the same coin. And so the product that I'm showing here, we call an aquatarium or a planting tank. And in the bottom, you've got, I think, 1.5 gallons, if I'm correct, of filtered water that, you could throw some Danios in, you throw a couple of neons in, they're having fun. In the back, there's a mountain piece that has a power head behind it, so it becomes a waterfall. And on the waterfall are different planting sockets that you can put live plants in. You can grow herbs, pothos. There's a whole number of plants. You can put bamboo in there that thrive in very wet conditions. We all know some of them. We see the people who stick a sweet potato in their aquarium all the time. And so again, here, all in one box, product that you can understand, instructions that both appeal to someone who is into fish and would like to test a little bit in live plants, or someone who loves growing plants and wouldn't mind having a few fish swim in the bottom. The light that you see at the top is an LED with a plant growth spectrum. So you actually get what you're looking for. And we've seen these in herbs, depending on what state you're in. Different herbs have recently become legal. I don't know. Obviously, I'm talking about
in New York anyway.
Basil and
Basil
and parsley and things like that.
Hey, you want to get your wife to allow another one in the kitchen? You just put some basil, some thyme, and some oregano on that.
Oh,
and then you got a nice kitchen. You got an excuse to put a tank in the kitchen.
And you can tell you did it for her.
There you go, Steve. They put that on the menu.
Can I use that? I'll give you credit. I'm going to put that on the box.
Yeah, you put some oregano, put some thyme or some basil on there, and it's a kitchen tank now.
And as I said, you can see the spectrum there with the growth light specifically for, oh, there we go. Okay, I was just looking for the video.
620 nanometer, right?
And there it is. Nice. You'll see the video pop up in just a second with a very happy pair of red platies swimming around in their aquarium.
That's really nice right there.
Wow.
And so, again, the point is trying to be creative, trying to keep our local pet stores full of product that will attract new customers, keep them in business. Certainly that's everybody's goal here, while providing entertainment for all of us, things that we like playing with as hobbyists. And regardless of how much time per week you have to put into the hobby, whether it's something you do an hour a day or an hour a month, making things that give us pleasure, that bring a little bit of nature into the house. And
now I have a question too, to jump in there. Like this particular picture, those are living plants or are those artificial?
I'm going to have to get real close to the screen just to check.
Because I'm thinking the first one, I know you were talking about, it has planter boxes in it. I mean, that's pretty much cycling your tank.
Live plants.
Yeah. I mean,
they're all live. Yeah. Live plants.
Or, somebody's getting a kid's getting their first tank. That's ideal. I mean, I just saw a woman buying a 10-gallon tank. She's buying a filter. She probably didn't know one from the other. She's got to get gravel. She's doing all this stuff. The tank is way bigger than this, so it's not as pretty as this is. And that's like a beautiful starter setup right there.
Yep.
And there was a filter in the back, you said, on that thing?
Well, I was just about to say, we have a power head running a sponge filter, and it's submerged. So it's drawing the water from the bottom and then shooting it out the top of the waterfall. So you've got tons of oxygenation. The oxygen exposure, the surface area is huge. And it's a sponge filter. So it will go
rinse it out.
Yeah, exactly. This is not designed for carbon and maybe fancier filter media. There's place to put it in, but I'm not expecting anyone to use this tank to breed cichlids or anything complex. This is more of a decorative tank, where, as you see, we got a couple of platies in there and they seem to be having some fun. this product, since it's a little more niche, it's not as broad appeal. This is easier to find online than in brick and mortar, and it's less than $100. I think this is $84.99. I believe that's the price point.
Not bad.
And there's a whole line. It's not sure if everybody listening was aware, but especially with all of us being in our houses alone for the past year, the growth of home gardening has just been incredible, along with the aquarium industry. And I think everybody here knows, and in case you don't, the aquarium industry had tremendous growth last year because you were in your house for a year. So millions of people, I'm sure everybody here knows someone who went out and adopted a dog or a cat.
Me.
From their shelter. Did you really?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, multiply that by 1 million, and now you know why some of the shelters are empty. But at the same time, 1 million other people went into the basement or the garage and got out that old 29 and hooked it up and went to the pet store. The aquarium stores really did a lot of business last year. They were essential businesses because they sold food and really had a very good result. And so what I'd like to do now is I'm going to go back a few. Oh, there we go. Okay. You'll see it in a minute. There's a little bit of a lag. And Dee, maybe you can give us the code word for everyone who's been so patient for the past hour, watching the presentation, listening to me.
I snuck the code word down there, so it's been playing. So I was telling them they better get this code word right now. The code word is Instascape. So get that code word Instascape, and you're going to email it to Brooklyn Aquarium Society at Hotmail. So that's BKLYN Aquarium Society at hotmail.com, and take a shot at you getting one of these. Don't ask me tomorrow. Don't ask me at like 12 o'clock tonight. Send that email now because supplies are limited. We don't have a limitless number of these. The first few people to put in will be the lucky few. And we got a lot of questions. Is it available? How much is it? Where can I get it? Here is your chance to be one of the lucky few.
Thanks for that.
I'm putting my name in the hat. I'm putting my name in
that plug, D. You know, we do have a limited supply. I'd have a lot more, except for somebody crashed in the Suez Canal. And
yeah, that guy.
They
still don't know how he turned that whole freighter sideways into the canal.
It's not easy. But anyway, yeah, we do have a certain supply for our friends listening in tonight. And we want you to, hopefully you like the product. If you like the product, you know, tell your friends, like Carton does on the fan. Tell your friends if you like it. I hope you do. That's the end of my presentation, or what I had planned to speak about. But I would love to answer any questions at all about the industry, about Penn-Plax, about the Mets, anything you could think of.
How was the game? How was the game?
There was a question that just went by too. They said, "Is there any heater in that tank, or can one be put in there?"
Mm-hmm.
You could put a heater on its side. Probably you have room, maybe for probably one of those fixed wattages, like a 25 watt without the thermostat.
That's all you would need with that small tank, right?
Yeah, they have a beta heater, like they have those little flat beta heaters.
Right, and they're not thermostatically adjustable. They're just permanently on. They're really warmers. And so the answer is yes, you could put a heater in there, but not very big. Again, it's only about 1.5 gallons of water.
Don't throw a 300-watt Ebo Jagger in there or something, right? melt the aquarium.
Yeah, please don't do that.
And I sent the code. The email is in the banner streaming right now. So I'm going to stop it in a few. So I'm giving you guys a chance to get it. I put it in the comments. Yada, 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 blah, 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 yakety smackety. But yeah, this, I'll tell you, Gerry and I talked about this the other day. And, you know, at heart, we're a lot of fish geeks. You know, I can't say that I'm not guilty of trying to do this. I've glued Anubias. You know, I make a lot of videos on, you know, affordable ways to get into like many aspects of saltwater and freshwater. And this is a really, really innovative way to build out an aquascape without completely doing it from scratch.
I also don't think that you need a heater for the aqua terrarium, since it's going to be in your house, maybe in your kitchen or den or something like that, or possible office. It's room temperature, so everything should be fine without it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
depending on
pretty
your
much,
houses.
You know?
Yeah, some people run their rooms at 65 at night.
Right, exactly.
Well,
But like
Exactly.
my beta tanks, I have 3 or 4, one of the two. Only one of them is actually heated. Fish actually adapt to a certain range of temperature swing.
Certain fish.
You know, as long as as long as certain fish are the case and it's not drastic.
you can have cool water fish too, like white clouds or
Yeah, white
you know,
clouds,
other
killies.
small like tetras and stuff that would go in cooler temperature waters. That would be nice, and they're very pretty as well.
I'll tell you, the
We've used
killifish are really pretty, and they are pretty cold water tolerant. I've kept mine down to like 70, and I'm sure it's probably dropped lower than that once or twice. But yeah, a lot of species will go for it.
the Danios. We've used like zebras and also white clouds. Those are the ones most common that we use in our advertising. We have aquariums all over the office, and I don't tell people that they're fish. I say they're actors, because we do sometimes have to take them out of my aquarium or the CFO's aquarium, and we use them in advertising videos or product videos that we use on, say, on Amazon or Chewy or somebody like that. But the other thing on the planting tank is that the submerged pump also generates a little bit of heat, so the water is going to naturally be a little bit warmer than the room that it is in. And that's for a white cloud and for a zebra. Really, that's more than enough heat for them.
Yeah, it's really pretty plug and play. You know, it's
Right.
it's nice
Right.
and simple. It's not intimidating. You know, you're not gonna like rake your mind trying to figure out how to keep the plant alive. I know I've done that probably 50 times.
That's
I probably see
fantastic.
this as being a build. Like, if you let's say you start a 40 breeder, you can start with a mountain, then you can go with a log over here. You can go modular
Hmm.
with this and
Yeah,
actually build what it is that you want.
it's a
Oh
fantastic
wow.
idea.
Thank you,
Love it.
Vincent Patano, for a $20 super chat. Thank you, Vincent. Awesome. Now I'm gonna give you guys a shout out. We got super chat from Vincent, greatly appreciated. We got from Farm Boy Reef, greatly appreciated. I'm going to take these funds that we get from the super chat, and I'm going to build with the president. Don't tell the president because he's holding on to a bank account right now. I'm going to take the super chats and I'm going to get a super chat prize that we are going to actually give away for users in the Facebook page. So look out, Facebook users. If you're not already subscribed to the Brooklyn Aquarium Society YouTube channel, a lot of the content is going to move over to the Brooklyn Aquarium Society YouTube channel. And I'm going to use the super chats to do that. So we're going to give it back to the users because that's the kind of guy I'm not going to stingy. I could buy some lights for this baby over here, but I'm going to give it back to the people because I'm for the people. Power to the people.
David, I gotta tell, I'll tell him in front of everybody. David does a lot for us, and he's always one of the first to volunteer. And with people like him, the club wouldn't be around. You know, and unfortunately, there's a small group of us now. You know, that actually do what me, Joe, David, and a few other people help out. You know, but David's always there, first to volunteer, and we appreciate you.
I'm crying
Don't
now.
cry.
Where's my tissue?
Listen, I know as soon as the screen goes off, you're actually gonna cry.
Well, I'm going to
as soon as the
ask
screen
one more
goes off, I'm
question.
going to go put Patrick
You're gonna
back before I
you're gonna
step
go
on him.
you're gonna go tell your wife they do love me.
They love me. They really love Patrick.
I'm going to ask a question of Joe, and I don't know if it's one you're prepared for, but we'll just do it live. So today's April. Any idea, are you doing any thinking yet about when we'll be able to meet again live? Any kind of month that you want to throw out? Because I know people have been asking me that.
North Jersey Club is going to meet on April 27th in the New Brunswick Hotel for a giant auction.
Wow.
It's going to be COVID proof, distancing, sitting 6 feet apart, wearing masks. They're only going to allow 85 people in. So that's a start. And there's also 2 club meetings, I believe one in July, which is going to be the American Cichlid Association. They're going to be meeting in St. Louis, Missouri. There is a hotel that's going to be putting people up for their annual convention. And then you have the American Killifish Association is going to be meeting also in the same place, St. Louis, Missouri, in the same hotel in, I believe it's August. They're going to be meeting then. And there's another club, Saltwater Marine Club, going to be meeting in September in Florida. So, yes, I think we're starting up.
Large event, yeah.
Yep,
We're getting there. We're getting there slowly but surely.
We're trying to plan for it.
We have our meetings in the New York Aquarium in Coney Island, as everybody knows, and we have spoke to them already. They're not ready to let us in yet, and they're just starting to open up now. They're still keeping restrictions and stuff when you go in there. So we're hoping not too long, but we miss having these meetings and getting everybody together and
by all means, it's not us. We have to keep the safety of everybody involved as front center. But we just have to be mindful of situation at hand, and we would not put anybody in harm's way. But of course, if we did open, how could we say, okay, you can get in and you can't get in, and you can get in, you have a reservation, and it becomes a whole big thing. But yes, thank you, Trevor, for a $20 super chat. You guys are gonna have one hell of a prize. I'm gonna have to get a few prizes. I think I'm gonna get a few things and kind of try to do stuff for as many people as I can. So I appreciate you guys.
On our average night, we usually have at least 100 people there and stuff, much as 150 sometimes. So if, like I said, they restrict us to, let's say, 75, what do you do when 150 show up at your door? And how do you pick and choose,
And when we have speakers like Gerry here, we're gonna have to turn away 250 people.
That's right.
I make it killed at the door. I'm the guy at the door, like front line and center. But it's great talk tonight. It was really nice. I gotta say, because Brostek's main concern is, he says this is not a commercial for Penn-Plax. We want to talk about the user. We want to talk about the fact that we want to keep intro level hobbyists in the hobby. So every time we get a person in the hobby and get them started the right way, they stay. When you throw a lot at a person, they get in a hobby, the tank fails, it looks green like that picture. They're like, oh, this is too much work. This isn't for me. That's a hobbyist that doesn't come back. And not only have you sent them away, but that bad experience translates into their kids saying, no, I had one as a kid, it was bad, yada yada yada. So I'm 100% for giving into the hobby and trying to keep it affordable and making it a successful experience for everybody.
Right. We, as a club, obviously that's our main objective, is to teach people not to open the killing machines, just everything dies in there, and I've had experiences with people that tell me that they wash their tank every week out of. One lady actually told me she uses Palmolive every week and wants to know why the fish die. True story.
But they're sparkling clean when they die.
True story. But I like that tank clean. Yeah, but you can't put people don't realize.
And it softens her nails while she does dishes.
Right. Sometimes simple things as soap, cologne, perfume on you, things like that, and it's really not that hard to keep efficient. If you're getting into, a reef tanks and plant, yes, it's a little bit more of a level up, but to start on an entry-level tank is really not that difficult if you're going to put a little bit of time. And it's not, you have to spend hours every day, but you have to know the right way. When you walk into a store and they hand you a tank with the fish in the bag and everything, hey, go here, put water in it. They don't tell you anything else.
Yeah, and I saw it today. It takes, when we go in and we're nuts, like, when we go in and you sit next to someone that you see them with the tank in the arm. The lady had the tank in the arm. She had the kid's hand. She's like, "Oh, I like that fish. What fish you like, Timmy? Or you like the gold one?" And I'm like, "Oh God, this poor fish. If fish could talk, they'd be screaming." Like,
You're hoping she has
buy
another
that guy.
tank home to put that in. Yeah.
Well,
They'd be like, please buy him.
let me share one story that is 100% true and will probably resonate because it certainly speaks to what you were just sharing. I mentioned at the beginning that I've worked just about every department in the company. I did about a 3-week stint on customer service. Toughest of all the jobs I've had, that was the toughest. But we get this lady calling and she was complaining about an air pump. The air pump's not putting any air out. You know, I want my money back. I'm very upset. And I said, well, I'll walk you through it, ma'am. It's okay. Our pumps work. She's like, I don't need you to walk me through it. I plugged it in and I put the pump inside the aquarium and I don't see any bubbles.
She's lucky that's all she didn't see.
Yeah. So to my point, it's a little humorous, but true. And yeah, you know, you have to, just like the woman using Palmolive to keep her aquarium clean. Don't assume anything. Say it twice. Say it slowly.
You know, I'll tell you a
please
quick story.
Don't throw your air pump into the aquarium. That's not the way.
Well, the air pump bubbled, but it only bubbled once. On the way down. On the way
Bubbles
down.
And sparks. Bubbles and sparks. Well, I'll tell you a quick story. There used to be a store on Nostrand Avenue that closed up now, but a lady would come in when Nemo came out and she wanted these clownfish. So he sold her 2 clownfish. Next week she comes in, she buys 2 more clownfish. He just went on for like 4 or 5 weeks. Finally says, "Boy, you got a lot of clownfish." "No, they keep dying." She says, "Well, what are you doing?" "I put them in a bowl." She goes, "No, this is salt water." She goes, "Yeah, I pour kosher salt in there. They keep dying."
Well, they're kosher at least.
I must have sold her like 5 pairs of them before I realized this.
The fish aren't kosher.
I have one thing to bring up. The North Jersey Aquarium Society meeting is Sunday, April 25 in North Brunswick, New Jersey.
Yes,
I stand corrected. Thank you, Karen Haas, for that.
April 25th.
I appreciate it. April 25th.
Let me see. There was a few people are shouting out their clubs now.
Right.
And if you have questions, I'm also trying to cross promote all of the clubs on their Facebook pages. A lot of these clubs have the Facebook pages.
Good.
If these clubs, and this is a shout out to the clubs, if you're not members of the NEC, look into becoming a member of the NEC, the Northeast Council of Aquarium Societies, because we're trying to communicate all of these organizations and events so that people know what's open and what's not open. And the NEC virtual convention, another project that I'm working on, I need like 4 more arms, is coming out toward the end of this month. It is coming really quick. Go to NEC's website to get the information on registering. It's April 23rd to the 25th. So on the Northeast Council of Aquarium Society's websites, you'll have information on registering, as well as links to a few of the other clubs that may or may not be in your area. If not a member of the NEC, look into joining. Thank you. That was my soapbox moment.
Right.
But yeah, keeping people in the hobby, whether it's saltwater, I always say I don't focus on one part of the hobby, saltwater, freshwater, because the science is the science, and people get intimidating. My buddy, Farm Boy Reef, he's got a 600-gallon saltwater tank. He had 800-gallon saltwater tank. He had a 50-gallon tank. He had a 200-gallon. Freshwater has really, to him, he says, freshwater is so tricky and complicated. I said, you got a 600-gallon saltwater tank. Like, I want people to have the confidence.
They're all easy as long as you have the knowledge.
That's
you just
the
jump
key.
into it without learning first. And before I started a reef tank, I've been keeping fish tanks for years, but about 15 years, 18 years ago, I wanted a reef tank. I must have read 4 or 5 books before I did it.
Oh,
I went through
joking.
books. I went through things. I went into all the fish store, find out people that were keeping reefs and find out different tricks. And I made mistakes. I bought cheap lights. I bought cheap skimmers. And you regret it. You regret it in the long run, But I try to do my research first. Just to jump in, that you're going to kill something like that. That's just stupid. You got to take your time, look into it a little, learn. And again, that's what our club is for. When we meet our club, there's almost always somebody in that club that knows what you want to raise, that can help you out.
And not for nothing. Yeah, and not for nothing. this is an excellent product, but without doing your homework, you can still screw it up. Nothing is bulletproof. You still have to know, okay, you're not just going to pour water out the sink in there, throw the fish in there. I mean, you do have to know and get that foundation. Every big structure is built on a good foundation, and the foundation is doing your homework before you jump
And
in.
you'll still make mistakes, but learn from
sure.
your mistakes. Don't keep doing it,
Right.
I kept wondering why all my shrimp disappeared. The first saltwater tank I got, and I says, "Oh yeah, I guess that wrasse loves shrimp. I'm buying them expensive dinners. It's like Red Lobster every night in that tank."
Yep.
So you live and you learn.
It's like I put a botia in my plant's tank one time. He ate all my snails up.
Yeah. And
I
Gene
think we've
says,
all had
"Yeah."
those experiences.
Gene says Palmolive's great. Gets rid of everything. And it softens your hands while you do this.
All right.
For those of you that
Madge.
remember that pitch.
Okay,
that
Madge.
pitch showing the years. So yeah,
All right,
I
Gerry,
want to.
we thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and your Friday night.
And thank you for
having us.
Thank you for being so generous.
On behalf of Penn-Plax, our entire staff, thanks for doing what you guys and gals do to keep the interest, to be an information source. Not everybody wants to Google. Google's great. Yeah. That's not the answer to every single question.
Right.
It's by talking to Steve and Joe and Dee and everybody else in the group and being in the same place and looking at fish. That's really just as valid way of sharing information as using the computer. So thanks to you guys for having me. Thanks for letting our company talk about some of our products. And again, I look forward to seeing people in person just as soon as possible.
Yep. Thank you for your support over the years and, your donations and stuff. That always, of course, keeps our club alive, And I know you've been a sponsor for a long time with us. You've always helped us out. And we appreciate that.
Support the local businesses, people. Amazon is awesome, but the local businesses are the ones that you come when everything goes wrong. Go to them when everything is going right. Get the proper foundation. Get the work in. Get the homework in. Right. And I'm going to say, Gerry's a record because he's got the most super chats I ever got in any presentation. Probably got the best viewership of any presenter. No shortcoming to any other prior presenters. But I gotta feed the ego a little bit there. I gotta put a smile on his face. See that smile right there.
When I'm a little kid, when I'm that 12-year-old kid, I dreamed maybe of being a baseball player, or I might have set my goals to become an astronaut and go in space, but never in 1,000 years did I think I'd be able to present online to the Brooklyn Aquarium Society.
We're glad to make your dreams come true.
Talk about hitting the bucket list.
I had a lot of fun tonight. I hope people had some fun too.
Oh, definitely.
When you wish upon a star.
It's funny, your story, how you started off is pretty much like mine. I was 10 years old. I got on my bike. I went to Coney Island Avenue. It was a small store. And you come back, like you said, with $1.50 fish, and you put it in the tank. And, like my 10-gallon tank, I think I must have changed it 10 times in 2 years, over different aquascaping. And, I would have cowboys and Indians in there one time on army figures,
I had army men, those little green army men. I had a bunch of those. They were fighting.
Now I'm more of a natural biotope with my tanks, but you try everything when you're kids, And like I said, my father always had tanks, always had big cichlids and, Severums and Dempseys and Oscars, You branch out from that,
And I want to put a challenge out to people. Anybody that goes out and gets the Aquaflora or actually gets one in the giveaway, I want you to take a picture of it. I want you to do a setup. I want you to take a picture of it and post it on the Facebook page, because that may be an entry to the next giveaway. I'm thinking that's a good idea. I want to see people using these things.
Great idea.
I want to get pictures of that product in the tank setup. And the first people that are able to do that, I'm going to have a special gift from my own personal collection. I'm going to get something out of the archives, and I'm going to send something to
remember this. Remember there's children that watch this too, David.
Well, I'm not going to get the figure. Remember those figures we have in the storage with the? That's a quiet joke. I don't know. We had a bunch of figures that weren't exactly appropriate that somebody donated.
A lot of the adults liked them.
A lot of the adults liked them. The kids were like, "Hey, why is Dad buying so many of those?" But yeah,
and they're not going in the tank.
They're not going in the tank. You never see where they end up. They go home and you never see them again. But Thank you, Gerry. With that,
right.
I'm going to wrap it up. We've been going an hour and a half. I want to thank all of you guys for sitting in with us and making the club what it is. And
our members stick with it. We'll get there eventually.
yes,
That's
and
right.
if I missed your comments, I try not to miss the comments. I went through here. Keystone Clash is happening September 25th of this year. I'm going to run through this, make sure I don't miss any.
Great.
Okay, Carol said best presenter ever. Mimon Rocks says, oh yeah, great. See you guys rock. They like his Iron Man theme. Oh, that track was a winner. I'm stealing that one. And go Mets. Oh boy. Okay, come on, David Lunt. Really go see my Mets down there.
Mets.
You got another fan here. You got another Mets fan over there. So yeah, everybody, thank you for sitting in. And with that, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Brooklyn Aquarium Society on YouTube. And good night, everybody. Good night.
Thanks
Good
very
night.
much.
Thank you again,
Good
Gerry.
night.
Thank you. Oh, that was great.